started a similar idea. It was just a menu guide. It started out at Penn State, and from there they were up for a couple of years and evolved into online ordering. At some point it got taken to Bloomington, Indiana, and a friend of mine launched it there, so I began working with him, kind of collaborating with the idea. Being from West Lafayette, my best friend was a Purdue graduate in May, and I was back and forth on the weekends a lot. I started working for my friend down in Bloomington. I eventually ran his marketing campaign. I believe we reached about 30,000 people. We did about $3 million in online ordering. And at some point in all that, I kind of gained the confidence to take the business model to other places, and we saw a need for it here at Purdue. We thought that the convenience would be something that Purdue students would use, and with how much students are on their computers these days, it was kind of a no-brainer, and the timing just added up on everything. Well, it was more about just attaining the funding that it would take to execute our marketing plan. So, I had the idea. I knew that it was something that I could do. I knew that I had the skill set. I had been around a lot of restaurant owners at that point, so it was something that it was more about finding the right match for investors, because obviously at some point it was people that were making a bet on me and my success, I feel like, because not very many people are going to trust a 23-year-old with several $1,000s and expect them to go turn that into hundreds or even millions of dollars in revenue. So I needed somebody that could believe that I was going to work hard for this and that I was going to be able to pull it off and not get in my way too much, because obviously having somebody that would be overly involved could be a bad thing, because I had experience with this in another city. I have friends that have done this in other college towns, so I just needed someone to provide the funds, and we were able to do that. So glad things are off to a good start. Well, anytime you start a business, you make a lot of educated guesses. You try to be conservative in those estimations, so that way if something goes wrong, it doesn't wipe out your entire idea. We had goals and milestones that we wanted to achieve throughout the year, and so far we're on track to achieve a lot of those. We're very pleased with the reaction that this market has had to our product. People seem receptive. Obviously, anytime someone's making purchases online, it's important for people to trust you. They're going to give you their money over the internet. That's one thing. People are going to recognize your brand and adhere to that. So we feel like people have taken to our brand pretty well, and we're excited for the years to come. Well, Hungry Boiler it works because we're locally branded. We are very specific to West Lafayette. Obviously, we have hopes of taking similar ideas maybe to other cities or campuses across the U.S. in the future. But right now, that's not an imminent plan. We want to be the best that we can be here with Hungry Boiler and for this community. The same advice that I would give to anybody, whether it's in a college town or city or anywhere, is to just do your due diligence. Make sure that you know what you're talking about before you get involved, and make sure that you're realistic with your expectations. And if there's a side to steer toward, it's always be conservative. Obviously, people get excited when they see a gap that they can shoot to develop a business, and sometimes they roll with their ideas, or their creativity might get the best of them, and that ends up in them neglecting the reality of the situation, which is that things can go wrong. There can be bumps in the road, or there can be things come around the corner that you can't predict, and the more realistic you're able to stay, and the more conservative you're able to estimate, the more likely you are to succeed. Well, initially we turned to a couple of different sources. We wrote our business plan, and we began from there just talking to people within our network. The more we talked to people, the better understanding we had of what we were trying to do, because it took a while for us to really be able to articulate what exactly Hungry Boiler is, what the real value proposition that Hungry Boiler brings to a local market, and how to really express that in a way that would entice people to spend money on us to bring this to the table. Obviously, a little bit of a high-risk venture, just because there's no way for them to claim the money if it doesn't work. And we're young, 23, so we went to a couple different sources. We started off with venture capitalists. From there, we went to our families and close networks, and finally, at the last minute, we were able to find somebody willing to take the gamble.
Like that while starting.
One of the biggest obstacles that we always run into is just finding somebody within the restaurant that can make the decision to participate in our program for online ordering, because Hungry Boiler is a menu guide. We list every menu for every restaurant in town, as well as phone numbers and other information. So people can turn to Hungry Boiler for anything. But our most convenient feature is the online ordering, and with that, we have to talk to an owner or manager or somebody that can sign the agreement. And a lot of times restaurant owners own multiple restaurants. They live in other places, and it's difficult to get a hold of them sometimes. But once we got a few, we were able to get some referrals. Restaurant industry is a small community of people. A lot of them are friends, and they were able to help us facilitate that.